There is a moment early in A Link to the Past, and you have just escaped Hyrule Castle in the pouring rain, a dying man's sword in your hand, no idea what comes next. And then the overworld opens up, the music swells, and Hyrule is just there. All of it. Waiting. That feeling, that specific handover from helplessness to possibility, is something this game does better than almost anything made before or since. Here's the verdict before anything else. A Link to the Past holds up. Not as a nostalgia artifact, not as a historical curiosity, it holds up as one of the finest action-adventure games ever made. The world is brilliantly designed, the systems are elegant, the dual-world mechanic is still a stroke of genuine genius, there are real flaws, and we will get to them honestly. But the core of this game is as good today as it was in 1992. Some context first. By 1990, Nintendo had a problem. The original Legend of Zelda, released in 1986, had defined top-down adventure gaming. Then came Zelda II, The Adventure of Link, a side-scrolling action RPG that divided everyone who played it. It was not a commercial disaster, but it felt like a wrong turn. So, for the Super Famicom launch window, Nintendo went back to the overhead view, scaled everything up, and asked, what is the ideal version of this? The answer was A Link to the Past. The game was developed at Nintendo EAD, directed by Takashi Tezuka, produced by Shigeru Miyamoto, music composed by Koji Kondo. Development began in 1988, originally targeting the NES, before shifting to the Super Famicom. About 3 years of work in total, a year of planning, a year of experimentation, a year of production. It released in Japan on November 21st, 1991. North America got it on April 13th, 1992. The premise. A wizard named Agahnim has seized Hyrule, brainwashed the royal soldiers, and is systematically hunting down the 7 Maidens, descendants of the ancient 7 wise men who once sealed the demon king Ganon away. By sending each maiden to the Dark World, Agahnim can shatter that seal and release Ganon. The Maidens are the only thing standing between Hyrule and absolute darkness. The 7th and final maiden is Princess Zelda herself. And you are Link, a young boy in a green tunic with no obvious reason to be the hero of any of this. The game opens on a stormy night. Link is asleep. His uncle, sword and shield in hand, tells him to stay in bed and slips out into the rain. You follow him anyway. Inside Hyrule Castle's secret passage, you find him slumped against the wall, mortally wounded. He presses his sword and shield into your hands and dies. You are now armed, alone, inside an enemy castle with no training and no backup. It is one of the most economical, effective openings in gaming. No cutscene, no tutorial pop-up, just stakes and silence, and the sound of the rain. The core loop is this. Explore the overworld to locate a dungeon, enter the dungeon, find the key item hidden inside it, use that item to solve the dungeon's puzzles and defeat its boss, receive a heart container, progress outward. Every dungeon has a signature item, the thing only it gives you, the thing that then reshapes how you see everything you have already explored. This was not invented here, but A Link to the Past is the game that made it feel inevitable, that proved it was the correct structure for this genre. The item roster is excellent. The hookshot, fired at a chest, a block, an enemy, and Link rockets to it. The Pegasus boots let you sprint, and combined with the sword, let you charge a dash stab that breaks things open. Bombs clear cracked walls, the boomerang returns to you, stunning enemies on the way back. And then there is the spin attack. Hold the sword button, charge up, release, and Link whips 360 degrees in a move so satisfying it has been in every Zelda game since. You also collect bottles, 4 of them, fillable with fairies, potions, or bees. Small thing, massive quality of life. The Master Sword is earned, not given. You need all 3 pendants of virtue, courage from the Eastern Palace, power from the Desert Palace, wisdom from the Tower of Hiri. 3 dungeons. Then you walk into the Lost Woods to a pedestal in a clearing, and you pull the sword from the stone. The game does not make a grand cinematic event of it. It is quiet. The sword rises, the music shifts. It is one of those moments where restraint earns more than spectacle ever could. And it is not even the sword's final form. The tempered and golden sword upgrades wait in the Dark World for the thorough player. The cast is sparse but functional. Link is a blank, which is correct. The world needs to do the emotional work. Zelda guides you telepathically in the early game and is largely passive, which is a fair criticism. Sahasrara, the old sage descended from the wise men, serves as mentor and radio contact. Agahnim is a compelling villain precisely because he stays off-screen doing terrible things while you scramble to stop him. Ganon himself appears only at the end of Bri Sirani, but the build-up is long enough that when you finally face him in the darkness of the Pyramid of Power with 4 torches to light and silver arrows to find, it lands. The defining mechanic, 2 worlds. The light world is Hyrule, the kingdom Link knows. The dark world is the sacred realm after Ganon corrupted it with his wishes, a twisted, decaying mirror of the same geography. The magic mirror, received from a lost old man on Death Mountain, sends you back from dark to light at any point. The genius is in the mirroring. What is a lake in the light world is a swamp in the dark world. A forest becomes a skull-shaped cave system. A mountain pass becomes a crumbling wall. The same map, refracted through evil, and the puzzles live in the gap between the two. Here's the argument. A Link to the Past wrote the action-adventure template. Item-gated dungeons, a signature item per dungeon, a dual-state world that rewards exploration, collected heart containers, a layered overworld that opens up as your toolkit grows, a final tower before the final boss. When Ocarina of Time released in 1998 and was declared the greatest game ever made, what it was doing was translating A Link to the Past into 3 dimensions. The bones were already here. Everything that followed and the Zeldas, the Dark Souls, the Hollow Knights, built on a foundation this game laid. The back half of the game is the Dark World. 7 Maidens. 7 palaces, each one stranger and more demanding than anything in the Light World. Dark Palace, Swamp Palace, Skull Woods, Thieves Town, Ice Palace, Misery Mire, Turtle Rock. After the 7th, you face Agahnim again in his tower, a boss fight that is actually a game of Bat the Magic Ball, and then Ganon himself rises from Aghanim's body. Ganon's tower follows. 6 floors of the game's hardest enemies, a boss rush of every previous dungeon boss, and then the Pyramid of Power for the finale. It is a proper escalation. Koji Kondo's score for this game is extraordinary, and I'm not saying that because it is famous. I'm saying it because it does exactly what game music is supposed to do, which most game music does not. The Light World Overworld theme is optimistic and wide open. It sounds like Discovery. The Dark World Overworld theme is one of the most unsettling, propulsive pieces of music on the Super Famicom. It communicates danger in a way the visuals alone could not. The Hyrule Castle theme that opens the game is stormy and urgent. Kondo understood that the music needed to tell you how to feel about where you were before you had time to process it. If I had to name one thing I love unreservedly, it is the dual world design. Not the concept in the abstract, the execution. The moment you first get the magic mirror and walk through a portal back to the light world and realize you are standing in a place you have been before and something is different. That moment of recognition, that spatial click, is something games keep trying to recreate. The way the two maps inform each other, the way a blocked path in the light world becomes a shortcut in the dark world or vice versa. It is puzzle design as geography. It is still remarkable. Hyrule in this game is a designed space, not a pretty backdrop. There is intention in where things are placed. The castle at the north, Kakariko Village as your first civilized stop, the Lost Woods positioned so the Master Sword ceremony feels like a pilgrimage. The Dark World mirrors every corner with deliberate irony. The peaceful blacksmith's village becomes the village of outcasts. Lake Hylia becomes the murky swamp of evil. Players who have spent time in both worlds carry a mental model of Hyrule that is unusually complete, unusually tactile. You know this place. You know what it used to be. The set pieces are mostly quiet, the opening in the rain. the Master Sword rising from its pedestal in silence. The first time you are warped unwillingly to the dark world on Death Mountain. No warning, just the sky turning red and your health bar starting to drain, and the panic of finding the mirror before you die. Ganon's tower, where the lights are out and you light each torch one by one. And Ganon himself in total darkness, 2 phases, silver arrows required to finish it. None of these are spectacular in the modern sense. All of them are memorable. Now the honest criticism. Progression in the early game can be genuinely cryptic. The game rarely tells you where to go next, which for the exploration-minded is a feature. But the first time you play without a guide and without genre fluency, you can wander for an hour not realizing you need to drain the swamp to enter the second dungeon. Some of the block-pushing puzzles in the dungeons are tedious rather than clever, the classic grid push grind, and backtracking for missed items or heart pieces before the endgame can feel like busy work. These are real frictions. They do not break the game, but they belong in the record. The secrets are dense and genuinely rewarding. 24 heart pieces scattered across both worlds, some requiring items you will not have on a first pass through a given area. The magic cape makes Link invisible and intangible. It is missable, tucked in a graveyard, and entirely optional. The sword upgrades from the blacksmiths in the Dark World. Fairy fountains that upgrade your arrows and armor. And then, there is the Chris Houlihan room, a hidden chamber containing 45 blue rupees and the message, "My name is Chris Houlihan, this is my top secret room. Keep it between us." Houlihan won his name in the game through a Nintendo Power Contest. The room itself is a failsafe. The game loads it if a room transition fails catastrophically, which means you cannot really find it on purpose. How to play it in 2026. The cleanest option is Nintendo Switch Online. The SNES library included with any Switch Online subscription has a link to the past, and it is essentially identical to the original release. Same audio, same visuals, save states available if you want them. The Game Boy Advance version, A Link to the Past and 4 Swords, includes some dialogue fixes and a bonus dungeon called the Palace of the Four Sword, but the audio is downgraded and the GBA version is not on Switch Online as of now, so you need original hardware or a DS to access it legitimately. For most people, Switch Online, SNES version, done. The full verdict. A Link to the Past is a masterpiece of the Super Nintendo era that has not decayed. The dual-world design remains inventive. The item-based progression is as satisfying as it has ever been. The music is among the best in the medium. It is not a short game. The first playthrough will run you 12 to 15 hours longer if you chase everything. And it respects your intelligence enough to let you be lost for a while. The flaws are real. Some opacity in progression, block puzzles that wear out their welcome, a second half that slightly outstays its length. But the game earns its reputation. It belongs where it sits. The hot take. A Link to the Past is a better game than Ocarina of Time. Ocarina gets the credit for putting it all in 3 dimensions, and that was a genuine feat of engineering and design. But the structure, the rhythm, the feel of what a Zelda game should be, that is all here first, and it is tighter. Ocarina has 5 dead hours of Child Link. A Link to the Past does not waste a single dungeon. I will take a game that does not overstay its welcome over one that is celebrated partly because of what it meant to do something in 3 dimensions for the first time. The legacy is enormous and quiet. Quiet because so many games absorbed what A Link to the Past did that the influence became invisible. Ocarina of Time translated it to 3 dimensions and was called revolutionary. A Link Between Worlds. In 2013, returned to this exact map with a wall-merging mechanic that riffs on the dual-world idea. The broader action-adventure genre, item-gated progression, a world that unlocks as your toolkit grows, a layered overworld that rewards return visits, that is all downstream of this game. It sold approximately 4.6 million copies on the SNES. It spent more than 5 years at the top of Nintendo Power's rankings. The influence is simply incalculable. The thesis in one sentence, nay, A Link to the Past took the original top-down Zelda, corrected Zelda II's Detour, and on the Super Nintendo built the definitive action-adventure template, and then 3 decades of games followed its blueprint without always knowing it. If you are coming to this fresh in 2026, play it. It does not hold your hand, and it does not apologize for that. Give it an hour before you look anything up. Let the world disorient you a little. That disorientation is part of what the game is selling, the feeling of navigating somewhere real. When the dark world opens up and the music shifts and Hyrule goes wrong beneath you, you will understand why people who played this as children in 1992 have never entirely gotten over it. That is the verdict on The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.